Looking at 30 years after its premiere and, of course, following on from its resounding success, William Kentridge and Handspring Puppet Company reunite to present Faustus in Africa at the Baxter Theatre. And that is all happening between the 26th of February to the 22nd of March 2025. This collaboration is a reworking of their multi-award-winning 1995 production of the very same name. It was directed by Kentridge with design and puppet mastery by Handspring Puppet Company and Lara as associate director. Faustus in Africa, it's a harmonious blend of theatre and puppetry with music by Warwick Sony and the late James Phillips underscoring Kentridge's animations. And so for more on this, we're going to be joined virtually to chat all this and more. Enrico Daoyang Wei, associate puppetry director, is joining us this morning. Enrico, good morning, and thank you for making time to chat with us this morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good. I trust you're well as well. And congrats on this reimagining of sorts. Perhaps we could just look at, given that Faustus in Africa is a reworking of this 1995 production, what new elements or perspectives are going to be incorporated this time around for its revival?
New elements. I think there's a very specific way in which we take in information these days. The ways in which we are inundated by media and how we respond to that. So obviously the visual elements within the production are still rooted in its original production. But we're trying to find ways in which the storytelling is following the line of how it affects our world currently, how we take in information, particularly in the ways in which we receive news about political situations or
So Enrico, I mean, speaking about how we take in information, I'm looking at the different blends, as Faustus in Africa obviously is going to be blending theatre with puppetry and music as well. And I wonder from your vantage point, what role do you think that the animations, even the underscore by Warwick, Sony and James Phillips is playing in enhancing this overall narrative and bringing it to life?
Well, like I said before, the production is rooted in its original production because we do feel that even 30 years later, that the themes that the production speaks towards are incredibly relevant for today's world.
Yeah.
I think audiences will be taken back to a specific time, but also in that sense becomes a reminder of where we are now and where we've come from and how we will continue to find sure footing as we move into the future. So, I don't think there's anything that we're specifically doing to adapt or change or shift the original heart of the production. It still rings true in the piece itself.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. I actually want to delve in further in terms of themes and conversation starters that come through it, because when we look at the commentary, the production, what it's alluding to when it comes to the human condition, when it comes to issues of coloniality, even African identity at large, how would you weigh in on that front, given that it could spark that conversation as well?
Wow, those are big questions.
Thesis loading.
Yeah, big constructs and big questions, especially for 7 in the morning. Let's see. I think there's something. So Faustus is a production, and it's also a story that's lived on in history for a very, very, very long time, rooting back to Christopher Marlowe and Goethe, which is where we're drawing a lot of our inspiration from. Today is this year is 250 years after Faustus, or Goethe entered Weimar with the pages of Faustus. So it's a very particular year for Goethe. But I think the question lies in the unique part of this production is that we're rooting, it goes back to Faustus in Africa. And why is Faustus in Africa at this time? because there's so many things that we're looking at in terms of how we see the world, how we're closing off borders, looking at the isolation of people and place, and how that still remains true, and how that still continues to develop and repeat cycles. So I think in terms of the themes, we're bringing new life and breathing new life to the themes that were rooted in the original production, but we're trying to find new ways of looking, new ways of understanding our own sort of complicit nature in this, and how all of that is still rooted in this idea that the human condition to strive for better or understand or achieve different positions within the context of the world.
And also just given the fact that there's a dark comedic undertone to the production as well. I wonder how you think the audiences will respond. But if we're looking at your own emotions that were evoked, would you care to share how it affected you as well?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
I was just asking in terms of the dark comedic undertone of the production that comes through. I wonder from your vantage point how you think audiences will respond to Faustus's journey. But even in being part of this, what emotions were evoked for you? How did you come to make sense of some of the questions that you had or left unanswered for yourself?
Well, I think art lives as it lives as a beacon. It lives as a beacon for hope, but also a sort of to shine light on what is currently happening in the world. So, for me, there is a dark undertone. Faustus has always had this space of questioning. So, in terms of how an audience responds, I think we're quite accustomed to finding this, understanding this space of tragic comedy. And so even though within the dark there is a light, and even in the light there is a shade of darkness. So I think audiences will take it in, and I hope that they, hopefully they receive it well, but also I hope people walk away asking more questions. Okay. I think that's.
Well, some of the view that it is a metaphor for our time. And I just want to look at the cast of them. I mean, I've seen some stellar names. There's Atandwa Khanyi, Jennifer Steyn, amongst many others. What was it like working alongside them? How do you think that also added to the magic of this revival?
Oh, I think we're still working. It's an incredibly talented and beautiful cast, integrating and finding ways. I think the ways in which they're understanding storytelling and also approaching new challenges with the puppetry and confronted with the images and of the animation, and how we weave that storytelling. It requires incredible amount of skill and incredible amount of dedication. And also finding a way to breathe together and to be together on stage. It's a different space that the company occupies. They work so tightly together as an ensemble, and it's just such a pleasure when you see them all just sort of click in. It's hard to say. I wish there was a better word that I could use to describe it than click in, but you just see it. You just see it light up.
All right, so we're looking forward to that production. Perhaps you could remind us about where it's happening and when it's happening. How audience can also access all of that information as well.
Yes, so Faustus in Africa is available. Tickets are available at web tickets, but also at pick and pay shops and stores. And it's running from February 26th until March 22nd at the Baxter Theatre Centre. And we do hope to see you there.
All right, Enrico, thank you for joining us bright and early this morning and for sharing your latest offering. We are certainly looking forward to what it's all about, of course, with that stellar cast, that ensemble cast Enrico alluded to, and just reviving the magic of 1995. Puppetry director Enrico joining us to chat about William Kentridge and Handspring Puppet Company's Faustus in Africa, celebrating 30 years of collaboration. As you mentioned, happening at the Baxter Flipside between the 26th of February and the 22nd of March 2025. So do get those tickets.